Sometimes, the harshest cruelty doesn't come from strangers, but from those we love the most. Why does a son humiliate his own mother? This painful question doesn't just tear families apart, it reveals some of the darkest corners of the human mind. In this video, we'll explore these difficult dynamics through the lens of psychoanalysis. You'll learn how unconscious conflicts, cultural influences, and hidden parts of our personality all contribute to this destructive behavior. By the end, you'll gain a deeper understanding not just of the psychology behind it, but also of the complex nature of human relationships. Let's start with a truth Carl Jung pointed out long ago. Often, what we fight in others is actually something we struggle to accept within ourselves. When a grown son humiliates his mother, it's not just a passing moment of impatience or frustration. Instead, it's a repeated pattern of emotional harm that runs deep in the unconscious mind. This cruelty doesn't come from indifference. It comes from an overwhelming emotional entanglement that never found a healthy way to be resolved.
Carl Jung taught us that the mother in a son's mind is more than just a person. She is an archetype. She stands for the original source of life, security, and also dependence. When a son attacks his mother, he's not just targeting one individual. He's battling the whole range of his earliest emotional experiences. He's confronting memories of his own helplessness, vulnerability, and need. Humiliation becomes a way to express feelings that have no other outlet. Imagine a child who never learned to name or understand their complex emotions toward their mother. As an adult, this person may only be able to show those feelings through anger and destruction. Love that felt overwhelming turns into rage. Gratitude that was too heavy turns into hatred. The longing for closeness becomes cruel distance.
This pattern becomes even clearer during times when the mother shows weakness, when she grows older, falls ill, or needs support. The roles suddenly reverse. The son, once dependent, now holds power. But instead of responding with care, he reacts with an unconscious revenge for those earlier years of dependence. Carl Jung explained that in a son's mind, the mother isn't just an individual, she is an archetype, symbolizing the very source of life, security, and also dependence. So when a son attacks his mother, he isn't just targeting one person. He is struggling against the full range of his earliest emotional memories. He is fighting feelings of helplessness, neediness, and vulnerability that go back to childhood. Humiliation becomes the only way to express emotions that have no other outlet. Imagine a child who never learned how to understand or name these complicated feelings toward his mother. As an adult, this person can only show these emotions through destructive behavior. The overwhelming love he once felt turns into anger. The heavy gratitude shifts into hatred. And the deep desire for closeness becomes painful rejection and distance. This painful dynamic becomes especially clear when the mother shows signs of weakness. As she grows older, falls ill, or needs help, the original roles between mother and son shift. The son, who was once the one in need, now holds power. But instead of responding with compassion or care, he often reacts with unconscious resentment, a kind of revenge for the years he felt dependent and vulnerable.
This problem gets worse in today's world. Many sons live far from their mothers, busy with their jobs and families. The physical distance often turns into emotional distance, making the mother feel like a distant, unclear figure where frustrations and hidden conflicts get stuck. Instead of bringing people closer, technology sometimes becomes a way to hurt. Messages aren't answered, calls are ignored, and visits are delayed or skipped. This quiet form of cruelty, called passive aggression, can be even harsher than direct fighting because it leaves the mother confused and silently hurting. The mother complex. Jung taught us what behind every strong emotional reaction is an unconscious complex. A son who reacts harshly toward his mother might be dealing with a mother complex that has shaped his whole personality. This complex can show up in two ways, either being too dependent on his mother or pushing her away too much. Some sons are so deeply tied to their mothers that they haven't fully formed their own identity. They live in a close, almost dependent relationship that stops them from becoming independent. When they humiliate their mother, it's a painful way of trying to break free, but instead of a healthy separation, they choose destruction. Other sons strongly reject anything that feels maternal. They are afraid of emotional closeness because they think it means losing their independence. For them, the mother feels like a threat, so they attack her first to protect themselves.
Both extremes show that the relationship with the mother was never balanced or healthy. The son hasn't learned how to be connected and independent at the same time. He either clings too tightly or pushes too far away, never finding the middle ground of mature, loving connection. The mother's role in this dynamic. In this situation, the mother often becomes a tragic figure caught between her own emotional needs and her deep desire to connect with her son. She might have built her entire sense of self around being a mother, and letting go of that role feels like losing her whole purpose in life. At the same time, she may unknowingly keep the destructive cycle going. Her difficulty in setting boundaries and her willingness to endure humiliation send a message to her son that his cruel behavior is okay. She becomes trapped in a harmful, codependent relationship that hurts them both. Jung taught that real healing happens when we bring unconscious patterns into awareness and integrate our shadow sides. For the son, this means facing his own fears and weaknesses instead of blaming his mother. He needs to understand that true strength comes from accepting his vulnerabilities, not from humiliating others. For the mother, healing means finding her identity beyond just being a mother. She must learn to respect herself and set healthy boundaries. True love sometimes means saying no to harmful behavior and protecting oneself. Healing. The hard truth is that healing can only happen when both mother and son are willing to face difficult truths about themselves. The son needs to realize that his cruelty is a sign of his own inner pain and vulnerability. At the same time, the mother must recognize that her habit of self-sacrifice might be blocking the way to genuine love. This understanding is never easy, but it is the crucial first step toward freedom. When both are ready to look honestly at their unconscious patterns, a new kind of relationship can grow, one built on real respect and true independence, rather than confusion and blame.
Carl Jung taught us that the greatest treasures often hide in the darkest parts of our minds. Even this painful cycle between mother and son holds the chance for deep healing and growth. If the son learns to accept and understand his shadow side, he can become a man who is strong yet compassionate. If the mother learns to value and care for herself, she can become a woman who loves without losing herself. What now seems like an unbridgeable gap of humiliation can turn into the beginning of a mature, conscious love. But this process demands courage, honesty, and a readiness to face our deepest fears and desires. Ultimately, the real question isn't why a son humiliates his mother,
but how both can find a path out of this darkness. The answer isn't about blaming or justifying, but about bravely recognizing and changing the unconscious patterns that keep them trapped. If these words resonate with you, whether as a mother or a son, remember that change is always possible. Conclusion. The first step toward healing is awareness. Behind every act of cruelty, there is a wounded soul searching for understanding and care. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." The difficult and painful parts of our closest relationships are often the keys to our deepest personal growth. The relationship between mother and son, with all its shadows and complexities, remains one of the most powerful spaces for psychological transformation. It reflects not only our individual struggles, but also the universal themes of human life: love and hate, dependence and independence, life and death. If these words resonate with you, please share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your experiences with these challenging family dynamics. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more thoughtful insights into the human mind. Because only by facing our darkest feelings can we discover our brightest light.